Hello, hello, hello.
Hi.
Everybody,
How you guys doing?
we're doing
We're here.
another
Yeah.
Friday night.
Friday, TGIF. Time for the weekend.
Not for you.
Except
Isn't this your
I gotta
weekend?
work. Yeah, it's my weekend to work. So no TGIF for me. My Friday's Monday. So tonight is going to be a little bit different. This is one of the original topics that Scott and I wanted to cover, and Scott's not here right now because he's doing a celebratory birthday dinner with his family tonight.
Happy birthday, April.
Happy birthday, April.
Happy birthday! And he did say that he would try to be on later on tonight. We'll see if he's able to. But until then, we're going to be talking about conspiracy theories. For those of you who are watching, you can see the glee on Tim's face when I said that. So,
Before we get too far, Jeremy, I do want to say
okay.
what we're going to discuss is our opinions about this stuff. If you want to look further into things, you can look at them yourself, but we're not trying to force anything on anybody.
Nope.
And while some of the things we'll be stating are facts,
And some are political.
and some of them, well, not necessarily
If we
political.
get down to Patton or Knox.
Yeah.
Fort Knox, we will be.
Some of them are a little politically based, but they're not politically biased. While some of them are facts, for the most part, these are just theories that are out there. None of them have been proven. Either way, I'll give you my opinion on whether I believe them or not, but the theories make you think, and thinking is the name of the game. Hi, everyone in the chat.
Oh, here we go. Priscilla, Mary, Holly.
Yeah.
Oh, this is Mary's favorite subject, conspiracy theories.
So we don't want anybody fighting and arguing. You guys can join in with the chat with us on this. We're going to do kind of a roundtable, but let's keep it civil too.
Yeah.
I know these things can get crazy a little bit.
Yeah. So feel free to ask questions while we're discussing this. I'm going to be asking some questions. Now, with some of the subjects that we are going to be talking tonight, I do have a couple opinions, but I try to look at everything from all different angles.
Right.
The first two conspiracies we're going to cover tonight, I don't want to spend a lot of time on, but they exemplify what I believe a great conspiracy theory has to have in it. The two reasons for conspiracy theories in my mind. One, follow the money. Someone's benefiting from it.
Yep.
And two, the world isn't ready for the real answer. Look at, all the conspiracy theories about aliens and things. That all falls into that category. So those two categories are really the topic of conspiracy. When you handle the topic of conspiracy theories, those two things are the big what ifs. That's the big thing that makes your mind think, hang on, there could be something behind this. Those two things.
Yikes.
Those two things are.
I'm trying to share.
She's trying to share a video and it's playing at the same time. So.
Oh, well, that's why I've got my phone on mute.
Mine normally is, but it just popped up and just started doing its own thing today.
So,
yeah, because I'm sharing everything as well. That's why I'm kind of looking off camera instead of at you.
So let's get into our first conspiracy.
Well, we got to make sure Jeremy doesn't have any announcements first.
Oh, well, yeah. Any announcements, Jeremy?
Let's see.
We said happy birthday to April. Today's Bart's birthday, so happy birthday to Bart.
That's right, Bart Fossey. If you're out there, happy birthday. He's probably on the road because he's a truck driver. And before we get started, I do want to mention I normally do this at the very end of the show, but this time I want to do it at the beginning. Next week's guest is going to be Kendall Welton and his wife Vera. So we are really excited about that one. We'll be talking about the documentary, The House in Between, and we will also be talking about some of his adventures as the cameraman for Ghost Hunters, the original series and the second series.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yes.
It's going to be a great show. Unlike tonight.
And also, things is going out of state in a couple of weeks. We've got a very special project that we have been asked to take part in. We can't exactly say what it is just yet, but we are, when I say we, I'm talking myself, Tim, Crystal, and Scott Wilson. We have been invited to go to an undisclosed location in Kansas. And weather permitting, we will be out there.
Yep. In about 2 days, 16-hour drive out, do our thing, 16-hour drive back. We're all going to be tired.
Extremely tired. So I think that's the only announcement that I really have.
Okay.
If you guys don't have anything else, let's get right into it with the first conspiracy theory. And I believe the first conspiracy theory is Bigfoot.
Yes.
There is a conspiracy theory involving Bigfoot.
Okay.
Not whether or not he's real or not. This is one of those follow the money conspiracy theories. So the theory is that that the U.S. government knows about Bigfoot, knows that he exists, but is unwilling to come out and say so because of the West Coast logging companies. So you have to remember that in 1990, the northern spotted owl was placed on the endangered species list. And when this happened, the environmentalists in the U.S. decided to protect a lot of land to save the animal, which makes sense.
It does.
Well, when that happened, West Coast logging companies almost went bankrupt overnight. If Bigfoot came out to be real and was placed on the endangered species list, you see where the money's going.
Mm-hmm. It won't be going to those logging companies.
Right. It's going to shut down even more logging companies. It's going to make more restrictions against logging in habitated areas where they believe that Bigfoot roams. And it's going to, and you have to remember, here in the United States, Bigfoot is a multi-million-dollar a year industry.
That's amazing, isn't it?
The mystery behind Bigfoot is an industry in itself. People make thousands and thousands and millions of dollars off of the mystery surrounding whether Bigfoot's real or not. If they came out and said that Bigfoot was definitely real, then, hey, you know what? All of a sudden, all these mystery, people aren't as willing to stop for something they know is real, but they're always willing to stop for a great mystery. Just last night, we watched a new game show that Craig Ferguson hosts called The Hustle. Great show, by the way. We really liked it.
Amazing.
But it's one of those mystery shows.
Mm-hmm.
And mysteries capture the imagination of people. So with Bigfoot being a mystery, these people are banking big bucks off of it. If he's real, are they going to make as much money? So when you follow the money in any good, great conspiracy theory, it lends credence. It gives a motive, just like a murder mystery. It gives a motive to what's going on, to the theory, to the conspiracy. Therefore, it makes it more realistic. And that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about, really, on the Bigfoot thing. Do you guys have any questions about it?
You're right, Robin. Most sightings of Bigfoot aren't reported.
That's true.
And a lot of people who do report it, they're shunned. It's taboo.
Well, there are people out there who have stated that they reported a Bigfoot finding and some men in black suits showed up at their door and said, look, it's better off if you just let this go.
Well, I know one of us does not believe in Bigfoot. I have discussed it with them. And he's not here to defend himself, so I can talk about it.
Oh, poor Scotty.
But we all have our own beliefs, and that's fine. I'm not telling him he has to.
Hi, Steven.
But I know Scott is one that says he doesn't believe in Bigfoot.
Me, I am personally undecided on that. I really don't know if I believe in Bigfoot or not. I just know that a lot of people do. And there does appear to be some evidence out there, but there hasn't been anything that is real substantial.
Mary, I'm not sure when the official first sighting of Bigfoot was. I know officially it was sometime in the 1800s, late 1800s. But here in the U.S., you have a ton of Native American history. And that Native American history, in many of the cultures of Native American history, they have a reference to a Bigfoot type creature.
Yeah, you have the Yeti,
these are
the abominable
people,
snowman. I mean, every continent has a form of Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, the Native Americans had these stories that date well back before we even settled here.
No, Stephen, that's Tim. Tim is Bigfoot.
Yeah, I'm the Sasquatch. Jeremy's got the hair, I got the feet.
Cute. He's the Bigfoot.
Yeah, I do wear 50, and I'm like 6'3".
Yeah, if Jeremy and Tim like crossbred, that would be like, there you go. There's a baby Sasquatch right there.
That is a scary situation that I don't even want to imagine right there.
But yeah, I do wear a size 15 shoes, so a lot of people call me Sasquatch just because of my big feet.
Exactly, Mary. They were not smart enough to create a money flow back. I mean, a lot of these people didn't have anything to gain back when the Native Americans and so forth. They didn't have anything to gain. A lot of people called them crazy. So why would they report it if they didn't see it? Why would they lie about it?
Well, I'm looking it up right now. It says here that the name Bigfoot first gained renown by an Indian chief with that nickname in the 1830s, who derived his name from the immense size of his feet.
Like his.
Jeremy. Yeah, that's my size 15 shoe.
Yeah.
Which Bigfoot leads us into our next topic. This is one that Scott brought to us, so I was hoping we could do it while he was here. You guys want to skip it and go and wait and see if Scott comes on later and do that one?
Yeah, let's put that towards the end to give him a chance to talk about that one.
You do that.
Gotcha. This is one that probably will pique, well, this new one coming up will probably pique Mary's attention a little bit more.
In fact, this one will pique a lot of people's attention.
Yes, it will.
This is all my last 48 hours have been.
We're going to go back to World War II for a moment.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the mysterious conspiracy theory on Hitler's death.
Mm-hmm.
Did Hitler commit suicide in the bunker? Or did Hitler flee to Argentina and live until 1962? That is the question.
It is the question. And there is evidence out there to suggest that Hitler never did commit suicide and did move out there.
Well, let me walk you through a little bit of this to begin with. So Hitler and Eva Braun commit suicide in the bunker, and their bodies are discovered the same day on April 30th, 1945. The bodies are immediately taken outside the bunker, drenched in gasoline, burned, and buried.
No, they were thrown into a river.
They were buried first. The Soviets, when they came through, said, "Show us the proof," so the bodies were dug up. The Soviets then examined the bodies. One Soviet doctor said, "This is obviously the worst fake I've ever seen of Adolf Hitler."
We all know Hitler had
many body doubles.
Yes, many body doubles.
And the Soviets then finished burning the body and threw it in the river, not allowing anybody else. None of the other allies were allowed to see the body, examine the body, do a proper post-mortem, nothing.
And they didn't bury him with a normal burial ceremony because they were too afraid of neo-Nazis flocking to wherever he was buried.
So Hitler has no tombstone.
Nope.
So that's the official story. The official story. The theory is that Adolf Hitler had a body double for him and Eva Braun, that they themselves went, and that the doubles were forced. They went into that bunker without knowing they were going to die there. That someone shot Hitler's body double and poisoned Eva Braun's. The real couple got into a submarine, a German U-boat named Seawolf 1, and fled to Argentina. Now there is a German U-boat that has been found sunk off the coast of South America, I believe off the coast of Brazil. That's factual. That's a factual statement. Another factual statement is that there are currency that is found in Argentina all the time that bears the symbol of the Nazi, the swastika. So the conspiracy is that Hitler went on and lived in Argentina, and that Martin Bormann, Hitler's assistant, he was the second in charge of the Third Reich, of the Nazi Party. He was like our vice president, if you will. Martin Bormann, this was his brainchild. Now, Bormann's body was discovered 2 days after Hitler's on May the 2nd, 1945. And once again, no proof that it was actually him. He literally gained control of the entire Nazi Party, named his successor, his assistant, which was Rudolf Hess, and 2 days later committed suicide. Now, Martin Bormann's signature has been found on legal documentation in Argentina. That is another statement of fact. whether somebody was impersonating his signature and impersonating to be him, or whether Martin Bormann was aboard that submarine, that's still to be seen. Another little tipping point in the scales for myself is that there are lots of eyewitness accounts, many of which that have been told to be quiet about it.
And he'd been paying money to Argentina.
Yeah.
So there's the money, the cash flow. Again, keep your mouth shut.
And what most people don't know is that Argentina did back Germany in the war.
Yes, they did.
They were shipping lots of supplies to Germany. In fact, one of the U.S. government's, one of the reasons Britain wanted the U.S. so involved in the war was to help stop shipments to Argentina. So we actually had an Atlantic fleet that had headed down towards South America to actually stop shipments from Argentina between Argentina and Germany. The problem with taking over so much land so quickly is Germany was running out of resources. It takes a lot of resources to build tanks, to build buildings,
just to keep your army supplied,
your
ammunition, your guns, your rations, your food, to keep
that all depletes resources.
Yeah. And they were also running out of manpower out there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
because if I remember correctly, we were just talking about this the other day. I think Germany had the third highest death rate in all of World War II.
Yes, they did. And they didn't have the manpower to go out and fight on the front lines. By the end of the war, I mean, there were kids as young as 10 years old, 12 years old, with rifles in their hands.
Yep.
On the German side. So, I mean, so the fact that Hitler had buddy doubles, that's a fact. The fact remains that there is definite evidence of Germans living in Argentina post-World War II. Mm-hmm. That is a statement of fact.
And there's also the story of a deathbed confession by somebody who claimed to be Adolf Hitler when he was dying in Argentina.
Yes. And if the story is to be believed, Adolf Hitler was slowly losing his mind. He was having nightly nightmares of all the people that he had killed. And he was attended by basically a butler and a doctor. And these two people lived with him and kept watch over him toward the end, and he was constantly attended to. I mean, you're talking about a guy who didn't get out of bed in the morning until he had put eye drops in each eye of liquid cocaine. You're talking about
he stayed drugged. He was going mad.
So the story goes that in 1962, Hitler finally succumbs to a heart attack in Argentina and passes away. Now, the other part of this story is that Eva Braun went with him, and that they had 2 children in Argentina, 2 daughters. And I want to say 2002 or 2003, one of these daughters was seeking help to get away from an abusive spouse. But she had a problem with her passport. It didn't have her real last name on it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. That's a good question.
That is a really good question, Graham Alexander.
Yeah, it is.
I know Churchill had body doubles in the war.
He had many body doubles. Churchill was ruthless. I know you're from the UK, so you're going to know way more than I do. But I am a British royal junkie. That's 3:00 this morning. I was watching the Queen, followed by the King's speech at 6:00 this morning. Yeah.
I do know that Churchill was not a proponent for anything Hitler did. He was definitely a proponent for basic human rights. But I do know that he had a temper, and a bad one.
Yeah, very bad.
And did not like anything that did not make him look flattering. Especially a portrait that was painted of him later in life. He really hated that. So if there was something that did not flatter Churchill, he really didn't like it.
So basically a very vain person.
Churchill was very vain.
Very vain. He gave some of the greatest speeches of the war.
Yeah.
I mean, the man, I don't know if it was him or the speechwriters that did it, but the man was
Command a room.
definitely a person that I'm not sure. There are some things about the fact that Churchill did.
Well, you got to remember.
I'm not sure that Churchill wasn't acting on behalf of the War Council doing that. So I can't tell you if Churchill
in that sense was
directly killed. And I mean, I will say this: Churchill and Neville. Oh, I can't remember his last name now.
Longbottom.
No, it's not Longbottom. He was the prime minister before Churchill. They did start a campaign that was different than the U.S.'s campaign on bombing. Churchill was a proponent for carpet bombing.
Neville Chamberlain.
Chamberlain, that's it. So basically, Harry Potter. Yeah, Neville Longbottom's Harry Potter. But so the British had a major issue with their bombing runs not hitting the targets that they needed to hit. They would drop a bomb and it would be off. Their targeting system wasn't as good. So the U.S. ran their campaigns by strategic bombing campaigns by only targeting wartime buildings or war-related buildings and war-related targets. And they did that during the daytime hours. And then during the nighttime hours, the British went in and carpet bombed cities that they believed had military targets. So I will say that the British probably killed more innocent people than what the U.S. Army did, simply because the carpet bombing raids. But I don't know that I would put my faith in that he was as bad as Hitler.
Now, is it not true that Hitler wasn't the main mastermind behind the concentration camps?
Well, Hitler...
That's a conspiracy kind of in and of itself, too.
It is. And Hitler definitely wasn't against the concentration camps. Hitler was the main proponent for blaming the Jews for the war. So he definitely.
But wasn't it one of his right-hand men who?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Stephen. Hermann Himmler.
Yeah,
Himmler. Yes.
Himmler was in charge of the SS, and he was the man who was. I was trying to think of his name. Thank you, Stephen. You saved me. Himmler was the one in charge of the SS.
We didn't go this far into it when we were looking earlier.
Yes.
I just remembered this off the top of my head.
He was the one who came up with the idea of saving bullets by gassing the Jews.
Because rations were getting weak.
basically the entire premise of it was, and it started off rudimentary. It started off with them putting them in a room and hooking a hose up to the back of a truck, and they would jack the rear axle of the truck up and let the truck run and give it gas, and the exhaust fumes would go in, fill up the room, and kill people with carbon monoxide poisoning. But then after that, they got more intricate with the chlorine. They would have these.
Okay, so Steven said, I love me some Hitler conspiracies, but that country goes way before Hitler in history of sympathizers. Between Argentina and Brazil, that took in Confederates from the American Civil War.
They did.
And they, to this day, have Confederate holidays.
Yes, that's true, too.
See, I didn't know anything about that any country had any involvement in the Civil War.
Oh, England had a huge stake in the Civil War, too, because America divided.
Yeah, I can believe that.
America united.
And they can come and get their country back.
You got to think it was only, 80 years after they lost us as the colonies.
Right.
And they had an interest in regaining their taxes. So.
Oh, Mary, I'm not saying Hitler's innocent by any means, but everybody thinks that he is the, I hate to say it this way, but it's the only way I can describe it, the genius behind the plans that were laid out to get the world domination that they wanted. But it wasn't all just coming from Hitler's brain. Yeah. It was
Hitler had an inner circle of people. And those people have been, no one person had a complete picture of everything except for Adolf Hitler. So everybody, all these inner circle of people, everybody reported to Hitler. And when somebody brought him something really juicy, you're my new favorite. But when somebody else brought him something juicier, now you're my new favorite. Now you're my. So Hitler pulled people and pushed people in all directions. So it was one of those things where everybody's fighting for the scraps from the master's table.
Yeah. And whoever came up with the next big bad plan that they could see into fruition, they were the next it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Now,
but Hitler, for all intents and purposes, was basically the face of World War II.
Yes.
Pretty much.
And there was one thing he was an absolute genius at, and that was propaganda and speeches. The man, if you've ever watched a Hitler speech, you see him throwing his head, you see him pounding his fist, you see him shaking his fist, you see him doing all these excited motions. He knew how to rile up a crowd.
Yep. He was very, very animated, very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And could be very eloquent when need be.
Mm-hmm.
He was the face of the new Third Reich. He was the face of the perfect race. He was it's funny to me that because England and France didn't enter the war until 1939. What's that?
I said, yep, either one of them married into our royals. Prince Philip. I'm telling you, I'm a royal junkie.
She has different royals in the Netherlands, my dear.
Yes, but still.
Yeah.
Into the royal family.
At any rate, Hitler was just a master at it. Well, where I was going with that was 1939. England and France entered the war in 1939 when Germany invaded Poland. But Germany had already invaded Austria. They had already invaded Hungary. They had already invaded the Czech Republic. So they had already been in several different countries invading and taking over different areas and lands. I believe they may have even gotten into the Netherlands before England and France entered the war.
Okay, Mary says that they had Bernard, not Philip, but Philip was of German descent. He had to denounce his name to even be able to marry the queen and denounce his ancestry. So Philip was one, yes, for the Queen of England.
Elizabeth II.
Yes.
The longest ruling leader in England.
Yes.
I know a little bit because you taught me.
You know a little bit because when you make me watch your history stuff, I make you watch my history stuff. Yours is American, mine is British.
Can you guys not tell that this is a married couple here?
Just a wee bit.
Just a little. just 19 years worth. We've actually been together 20 years now, so we'll be married 20 years in June.
Wow.
Because it looks like Stephen's going to have a coronary because he doesn't want any politics coming up. So let's move from Hitler, whether he did or did not. I think he fled. What do you think?
I believe he fled, that it was not his body in the bunker. There's a lot of evidence out there to say that that Hitler was in Argentina after the war.
I mean,
Jeremy, what do you think?
I think he fled as well. I think he fled as well because his suicide basically was just a cover-up.
Yeah, I agree. Someone as vain as Hitler, I can't see him taking his own life.
No.
Because while Churchill was vain, Hitler was vain.
I'm going to keep that comment to myself.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Someone that was as full of himself as Hitler was, there's no way that he would have taken his own life. He would have retreated to live to try to restart the Third Reich. In fact, one of the documentaries I watched on the man said that he was infuriated with Bormann toward the end of his life because he was just sitting idle. Yes.
You know all about the next one, Sid.
Yeah. The next one's my bread and butter. The next one's my bread and butter.
I'm really excited about this next one because I remember seeing TV shows about it, and I just love the story of it. Two bitter enemies actually working together.
Yeah. So our next topic is Billy the Kid. Did Pat Garrett kill Billy the Kid in old Fort Sumner? That's the question. Yeah. Bang, bang, Jeremy.
You know, I did that like 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, I know. Billy the Kid is one of my favorite outlaws of all time. And why is he my favorite outlaw of all time? Really, he is my favorite outlaw. No outlaw in history, no person in history blurred the lines between good and evil like Billy the Kid. They always want to blame Billy for, all these deaths. 26, 27, I think at last count they were blaming him for. But what you got to remember is none of those deaths would have ever happened if they hadn't murdered his boss, John Tunstall, and his good friend.
Yes. So basically it was out of
revenge.
He was trying to get justice for them.
Yes. And if you go to Billy the Kid's grave now, you will find an epitaph on the tombstone that says Pals. Billy the Kid's tombstone is completely encaged in metal because people were actually going and chipping off pieces of it. But Billy the Kid, I don't think he wanted to kill people as much as Yeah, there was one he really, really wanted to kill.
It was not that he really wanted to do it. It felt like it was something that needed to be done.
I think I could argue he wanted to.
Yeah.
I'll let him explain. I didn't know that part.
Okay. I'm trying to think of his last name. I have a horrible time with last names, people. I'm sorry. I remember dates before I remember last names. But it was.
He's been helping out with last names, so maybe he'll know this one.
So I believe this conspiracy starts between Billy the Kid and Pat Garrett when Pat Garrett gets elected sheriff and captures Billy. I believe the entire conspiracy theory starts there. Now, what you have to remember is one of Billy the Kid's living relatives, living descendants. They're not Billy the Kid's own, not from his direct bloodline, but one of his familiar bloodline. This person who claims to be a direct descendant of Billy states that Garrett and Billy both grew up in Texas prior to New Mexico when they were children. Hey, there's my Scotty's here.
Hey,
Scotty, there he is.
Scotty,
what up?
You made it.
I did, man. I did.
Well, we are in the middle of talking about Billy the Kid.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hi, Crystal.
Hi, I'm letting dogs in and out.
Ooh.
We have already talked about Bigfoot and Adolf Hitler's death. So now,
that's a good one, man.
But the one that you wanted to talk about, we saved it for later on to give you a chance to get on this show.
Hi, Gary.
I appreciate that, man.
So maybe we can do that one next after Billy.
That's fine.
Yeah, man.
So what I was saying is this all starts after Pat Garrett captures Billy. Now, there are two different stories about this. One is that Garrett captured Billy with every intention of hanging him. And one that Billy turned himself in because Governor Lew Wallace had given Billy the promise of a pardon for testifying against the Murphy-Dolan gang. So there's two different ways you can go. The accepted theory is that Pat Garrett captured Billy the Kid. And that Pat Garrett himself went, for some reason, what you have to remember is Garrett made campaign promises to be elected sheriff. It's not exactly like the movie where Pat Garrett, was riding with Billy the Kid and an outlaw himself, and they came to him and asked him to be sheriff. No, he ran for sheriff. He had political ambitions. And what you have to remember is 90% of the history, the actual written history we have about Billy the Kid is from Pat Garrett.
So that alone is suspicious.
From his book, The Life and Times of Billy the Kid.
I just want to say hi to Holly and Mary real fast because they said hi. So, hi, ladies.
So, Billy decides. That's right, Stephen. Billy the Kid is from Hico. Is it pronounced Hico, Texas, or Hico, Texas? I believe it's Hico, Texas. All of it took place in New Mexico. Yeah, I don't know. Stephen, how far is Billy the Kid in New Mexico, Lincoln County, away from you? But at any rate, this all conspiracy theory goes back to he's got number one captured. He's got him in the jail. He has two guys guarding him at all times. And I cannot for the life of me remember the one's name but the other one was Bob, Deputy Bob, and I can't remember his last name either. Like I said, I'm horrible with last names.
I am looking that up right now. Trying to find it.
But Garrett decides that he's going to go get the lumber for the gallows to be made. Now, if I'm sheriff and I've got number one in my custody, I'm not leaving. I mean, does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Scotty, you worked in the prison system. If you had the number one outlaw in the country in your grasp and you're the sheriff and you're the one who got him, are you going to go get the wood for the gallows, or are you going to send one of your deputies to do that?
I'll send somebody else to go get them.
Absolutely. And I would definitely send somebody. I will watch him myself. But Steven said you need to read what he wrote. I don't know if you can see it, but because he's talking about
an
that.
hour.
For an hour.
Go up a little bit.
Oh, Scott, Steven said hi.
Oh, hi, Steven. Hi, Pun Daddy.
An hour from Lincoln County.
Oh, yeah. He lives an hour from Lincoln County.
Tim, does James Bell sound familiar?
James Bell was one of the deputy, and then Bob something was the other deputy.
Bob Ollinger.
Ollinger, that's it. Bob Ollinger was the other deputy.
It wasn't Pico train.
What we know is
My Harry Potter reference earlier.
now if you read Pat Garrett's book, okay, if you read Pat Garrett's book, Billy breaks into the armory, grabs a gun, and shoots Bell as Bell is running down the stairs. 19 feet away from him, he shoots Bell, and Bell falls at the bottom of the stairs dead. Here's the rub. From what I've discovered, they did a luminescence test 100 years later, and found the blood at the top of the stairs. No blood residue at the bottom of the stairs, tons of blood residue at the top of the stairs. The sheriff who preceded, who after the next sheriff elected after Pat Garrett, his wife reports cleaning blood stains at the top of the stairs, not the bottom of the stairs. So here's where the conspiracy gets real. Pat Garrett leaves number one in the jail and takes off. That day, Billy goes to the outhouse. They take him down to go to the outhouse. Now, according to Garrett's story, Billy goes to the outhouse, runs up the stairs in shackles very quietly.
Nobody hears it. Nobody hears it.
Nobody hears him running up the stairs.
Okay, Scotty, once again, you worked in the prison. How loud are those shackles when they're walking?
They're loud the way it is. With these modern day shackles, you think about the shackles that were probably used back then, they were probably more of a heavier metal or heavier steel. So it's going to be so clangy. You're going to hear when somebody is walking, let alone trying to run, because it's almost impossible to run.
Scotty, he had 19 inches of chain between the shackles.
Yeah, there's no possible way.
So he ran upstairs with 19 inches of chain.
Yeah, he's going to run like a penguin.
He ran upstairs, ran his shoulder into the armory, took a gun, and Bell was trying to flee, and he shot Bell. Now, a lot of people believe that he pulled the gun from Bell. But Garrett does report that, and there are other reports from that time, from the newspaper clippings, that Bell's gun was still in his holster. So, at any rate, my personal feeling is that he got the gun from the outhouse. And that's pretty well accepted. So who leaves the gun in the outhouse?
That makes sense. And that's a great theory. I mean,
now Garrett has left town, right? So did Garrett leave the gun in the outhouse?
And let him know that it was there?
And let him know, and let Billy know, hey, I'm leaving you a gun in the outhouse.
And Steven makes a point. Wooden flooring would amplify the sound of the shackles.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a staircase. I don't know anybody that's ever looked at a pair of shackles, but when you got a chain hanging between your legs and you're trying to run, it's going to bang up every step.
Well, not only that, how are you going to run when you're attached? I mean, you got to kind of do this.
Well, you can put your feet together and run on your toes,
but even still, I mean, how deep are the steps? If they're a good, 6-7 inches, you got to still make that chain stretch to get your feet up there. I mean, unless you're bunny hopping up the thing.
Now, I need to mention this at this point. Bob Bollinger has taken the rest of the prisoners across the street to the hotel to eat dinner. Billy the Kid hated Bob Bollinger. Bob Bollinger was extremely mean to him. He was constantly shoving a shotgun in his face. In fact, when they captured Billy the Kid, Bob Bollinger went out and bought a brand new 10-gauge shotgun. And he used to reportedly tell Billy that he had $1.10 worth of nickels in each barrel.
Yes, Stephen, I agree.
And that he would plug Billy with both barrels if he made one move.
So we need to come out there.
Oh, I agree. I would love to go to Lincoln. Dude, you have no idea. I would love to go to
Lincoln.
now,
so I guess
I'd love to go to Lincoln and do some horseback riding through the territory. I would love to go back. I would love to go to Lincoln and do a horseback tour through the territory.
I'm riding a horse.
Why?
Well, come on, Scott. That's fun.
We'll get you a pony.
It would have to be a Shetland pony, okay? I'm kind of small.
I was just thinking about that.
But no, so at any rate, Billy gets the gun from the outhouse, hides it in his shirt. Bell leads Billy back, and they're going up the stairs. Bell's behind him with a gun, either with a gun on him or just following behind him. They didn't find a gun on Bell other than his pistol, which was in his hip holster. They get to the top of the stairs. Billy spins around, pulls the gun, and he doesn't want to shoot Bell. Bell reaches for the gun, grabs the gun. Billy starts to fall backwards. As he does, his muscles tighten up, and bang, the gun goes off. Now, from what the reports say from the luminescence that they sprayed on the blood stain at the top, it's equivalent to 2 liters of blood.
Definitely bleed out.
That is consistent with a gunshot. That's almost half the blood in your body. So definitely consistent with a gunshot through the chest. Also consistent is that Pat Garrett himself said the bullet went through Bell at an angle with a downward trajectory from front to back. So if Bell was running down the stairs, how could the bullet go at a downward angle? I'm trying to get on from front down to back. But Billy shoots Bell in the chest. Billy then runs in, grabs Bob Bollinger's brand new shotgun, runs to the window because Bob hears the gunshot and comes running across the street. He looks up at the window because Billy yells, "Hey, Bob!" Pulls both triggers and unloads this double-barrel 10-gauge shotgun in Bob Bollinger's chest, midsection. And it's reported that Billy said, "Best 220 I ever spent," and threw the gun window.
Yeah, it was
Bob Bollinger had $1.10 worth of nickels in each barrel. So it's reported that Billy said, best $2.20 I ever spent.
Are you sure it's two? Are you sure it's that? Because some of the reports that I have seen says 180.
Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just.
Yeah. But either way, he moved money.
But at any rate, Billy then runs off. Now, the second part of this conspiracy theory is that, and the escape is well known. The escape is a definite. That's fact. The other fact is it's reported, or it's not a fact, I guess it's reported that Billy had big wrists and small hands. So it made it really easy for him to slip handcuffs. But then we get on to Billy's death, supposed death. So they go on out, Pat Garrett and 2 deputies, one of which just happens to be Billy's cousin. Go out in the middle of the night to Old Fort Sumner because he thinks he's held up at Pete Maxwell's place. How did he get this tip? Well, let's just say Billy was dating Pete Maxwell's sister. He was kind of infatuated with her. So if I'm a big brother and the most notorious outlaw in the land is dating my big sister, I'm not going to be too fond of that. And while Pete and Billy were friends, there's a good chance that Maxwell didn't really want him dating his sister. But Billy's held up there at Pete Maxwell's ranch at Old Fort Sumner. Pat Garrett rides out to the ranch in the middle of the night. It's about midnight. Pete Maxwell's already in bed. He walks in, sits down on the edge of Pete Maxwell's bed. Now, this is Pat Garrett's story. Shakes Pete, trying to wake him up, saying, "Hey, have you seen the kid?" And lo and behold, miraculously, who should walk in to the room?
After seeing deputies on the porch.
Directly past the 2 deputies on the porch, one of which is Billy's cousin, who should back into the room and turn around and look and say, "K&S, K&S. Who is it? Who's out there? Who is it?" But Billy the Kid. Now, according to Garrett, Billy's got a gun in his hand, already drawn. And Garrett draws from the hip, goes across his body, and shoots the kid in the chest before the kid can pick his hand up from a seated position. Now, Scotty, you know a little bit about guns. How hard is it to draw a gun from a holster from a seated position in the first place?
Pretty hard, man. I mean, your reflexes are going to slow down so much just to rather than. I mean,
and in a dark room, he did this without making a noise and got the drop on somebody holding a gun in his hand already.
Billy the Kid of all people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we're not talking some slow guy from the Wild West. We're talking Billy the Kid.
Yeah.
Now, Garrett, that's Garrett's story. Here's the other part of the story. Garrett walks out and tells the 2 deputies, "Billy walked in the room and I got the drop on him. I'm almost sure I got him. He's laying in there dead." And the 2 deputies go, "We didn't see him. How'd he even get in there? Are you sure you killed Billy the Kid?" And Garrett goes, "Well, it was dark in there, but I think so. I know Billy's voice. I think I killed Billy the Kid. I know his voice. I think I killed Billy the Kid."
How many times have you been on the phone with me thinking it was Michaela?
Or Madeline.
But you know my voice.
Yes.
We've been together for almost 21 years. But
Right.
when we're on the phone and you cannot see me, you don't know who I am. I can sound like somebody else.
Right.
Who are you?
I don't know, buddy. I'm just here. I'm just chilling. I had nothing to do on a Friday night.
So, and I'm playing devil's advocate
with my dad and myself is that there have been many times where if somebody would call my dad and I ended up answering the phone for him because he couldn't get to it in time, they thought I was him. And vice versa. There have been times where somebody would call me and he just happened to be right there, so he answered it for me. He answered, they thought it was me.
Yeah.
because they sound so much alike.
My mom and her sisters is the same way. I know their voices because I've been around them so long. But like if he calls my mom and my aunt can answer the phone and have a whole conversation with him and he doesn't know it's her. Because he's not as used to her voice on the phone. I can tell the difference.
But at any rate, the story goes that Garrett didn't kill Billy.
Right.
Now, what you have to remember is Garrett collects a $500 reward.
Follow the money.
Now, $500 back in that time is a lot of money.
$500 now I wouldn't even bother with you.
Right.
I would.
$50 today is a lot.
I mean, a life $500 now. Let's kind of be real.
I'm getting a new PlayStation 5. What?
If you can find one.
Well, here's the truth. $500 back then would buy a sizable ranch.
Oh, absolutely.
And a good start of cattle.
$500 now doesn't even pay a house payment.
Exactly.
No.
I mean, let's be real.
But at any rate, the story goes that Pat didn't kill Billy. That Pat and Billy split the 500. And Billy was supposed to flee south to Mexico. Billy ends up going to Arizona. Oh, and by the way, Pete Maxwell's sister that Billy was infatuated with was Paulita Maxwell. I just remembered her name.
The names again.
The names. But Billy goes on and lives a productive life. And then the story takes another interesting twist. Yes, but wait, there's more. This man comes out of the woodworks in the early 1950s, claiming to be none other than Billy the Kid. He's well into his late 80s, early 90s. I'm not sure of his actual age at the time. And he goes by the name of Bill Roberts. There he is, Brushy Bill.
Yep.
Now, facial recognition software used with this picture and that picture have almost proven existentially that man is Billy the Kid.
Okay. Hold on a minute. I want to say something before we go any further. The actual picture of Billy the Kid, which is in the complete black and white, not a sepia tone. If you don't know photography, I apologize. That's kind of my forte. But the actual picture of Billy the Kid there is one of the only ones known.
It is the only known photo of Billy the Kid.
What about the guy we were watching last night? Doesn't he have pictures of Billy the Kid? This is the argument. You guys.
He believes he does, but there's no provenance to prove.
You guys want to know the fight Tim and I had at like 12:30 this morning, 1 o'clock? It's kind of funny. It's actually pertaining to.
Who put the toilet paper on wrong?
No, he's watching these documentaries to get caught back up.
Just to brush up on
his conspiracy theories, because him and I are both. That's one thing we have in common. We're huge conspiracy theory nuts. And he's watching these documentaries, and I'm half asleep, half awake. And there's some guy on there talking about, I have a picture of Billy the Kid. I bought it.
Not just Billy the Kid, but Billy the Kid with the regulators.
Yeah, with all the regulators. And he says, I walked into an antique shop. I got 3 photos for like $2. $2. Yeah, $2. So it was like 60 cents a piece for each one that he paid. And he says, I know that's Billy the Kid. I know that's Billy the Kid. And they're doing all these software recognition and whatever. And I looked at Tim and I said, how easy is it for me to walk into an antique shop right now and pick up a photo and say, look, I got Billy the Kid right here. All it has to do is be semi-resemblance. Those pictures are not the pictures we have now.
There are hundreds of fakes out there. That's the truth of it.
There you go.
Probably Emilio Estevez.
Emilio!
Well, the real difference is, though, that this was a tintype photograph.
It was a tintype photograph, but when we were in Nashville, Indiana this summer, there is an antiques little shop that is starting to set up down there, and they had tintypes in there. You didn't go in there with me and Kayla.
No.
When we went in and looked at the photography stuff, they had tintypes in there. How hard is it for me to say that that's Billy the Kid?
Right.
You know? Okay, that was our argument. I'm sorry. That was like 1 o'clock.
As you can tell, we get a little passionate about some of the topics that we cover on this show.
Yeah, him and I debate conspiracy theories all the time.
Roberts' real name or name is William Henry Roberts. Mm-hmm. Scott or Jeremy, either one of you want to guess what Billy the Kid's actual name is?
William Bonham?
No, that was an alias. Billy the Kid's actual name was Henry McCarthy. Or Henry McCarty.
And before that? Because that's his stepfather's name, isn't it?
Jeremy's phoning the internet for help. You can't ask him.
Yeah, and I'm on my cell phone, so that's just cheating.
He had several aliases, though. William H. Bonney, Henry McCarty, Henry, what was the other one?
Repeater. Oh,
no, it started with an A. Antwerp. William H. Antwerp. So, William H. again. William Henry. The whole reason he got the nickname Billy the Kid was because he was going by the alias of William H. Bonney because anybody want to take a guess? He had
Bill is short for William, so Billy. Yes. And he was young, so made him a kid, so Billy the Kid.
Yes, but why would he go? Why would he be going by an alias already?
He had a baby face.
Because he was a bad guy.
Because at 16, he shot and killed a man in Arizona.
Yes, you're right, Priscilla. We called him because Priscilla commented. I've got to say it. The guys already know this. We call him Technical Tim. Because anything you say, he will make sure he's walking Wikipedia and he will correct you.
William.
Just saying that.
But it is a rare occasion that he gets corrected, and I actually need to get the screenshot of Scotty correcting Tim earlier today.
It happened. I'm wrong from time to time, no doubt about it.
Yeah, because when I saw that, I had one of those memes.
Yeah, coming from me, I know, right? It's like, oh wait, Scott caught on that. Wow.
But
that was fantastic.
Man named William Henry Roberts, also known as Brushy Bill Roberts, asked the governor of New Mexico for a pardon in the early 50s. The governor of New Mexico agrees to meet with him. He comes into the meeting, and who is supposed to be just a small private meeting, and who's sitting there? The family of Pat Garrett. The media. And this man says, you want a pardon for murdering these people's families? And
he turns it into a circus.
He turned it into a big media circus for himself. The old man literally collapses at the meeting.
Good luck, Mary.
And then you want to watch this, Mary.
And then 2 weeks after that meeting, Brushy Bill Roberts succumbs from a heart attack and dies. But is it true that Lew Wallace offered Billy the Kid a pardon? Nobody knows. There's nothing in writing about it. There was one documentary out there where 3 experts on Billy sat down and talked about it. And they believe that Lew Wallace did offer Billy the Kid a pardon. And the governor of New Mexico just a few years ago pardoned Billy the Kid.
Now, Billy the Kid's family has asked because he is buried. Now, there have been floods, so they're not sure that his body's even there. But there is pieces of bone fragment. Is it his? Or Patton's? Patton's? Oh, my
You're
bad.
getting your conspiracy theories mixed up, dear.
Well, when you made me watch like
Now,
9 of them in
I do
the
have a couple more pictures to show. Supposedly, I need to hold on.
I know which one you're talking about too there, Crystal.
This is like for the last 48 hours, he's like, watch this conspiracy. Watch this conspiracy. I'm like, damn. Watch
Okay.
this. You close your eyes. My turn.
Here we go. So, supposedly, this is a picture of Brushy Bill when he was younger.
Looks like somebody I might have known.
Now, here is a picture. Here we go. If you do a side-by-side comparison.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean this with the utmost respect. Without dude looks like he's tweaking.
But you got to look at
everything is kind of lopsided on that one.
The features do
line up quite a
line
bit.
up.
They do. They really do. If you look at it, I mean.
So.
Okay, you can take it down because all I can think of is somebody tweaking.
So that's something to think about there.
Let's wrap this one up, guys. What do you think? Me personally, Pat Garrett did not kill Billy the Kid. I'm a firm believer in this conspiracy. The money's there. The motive is there.
Mm-hmm.
Pat Garrett had ambitions. It was a win-win for both of them.
Yep.
Also, I failed to mention this. Prior to the Lincoln County Wars, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid both worked at Pete Maxwell's ranch.
Yes. They grew up together.
They were friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think Pat Garrett killed him.
There's too many holes in Pat Garrett's story.
Steven, if you're still in here at any point at any of this, go to bed. I'm being nice. I'm putting it in a nice way because we're live. Go to bed. If you follow the chats, you know what I mean.
Yes.
Anybody else in here that would like to comment on this? What do you think? Jeremy, what are your thoughts on Billy?
I think it's handsome. I wonder if he's still around.
The evidence is there. Billy the Kid survived.
What about you, Crystal?
I think he has survived. I think it was all an inside job. It's a win-win. Everybody gets money. Billy gets to ride off into the sunset, live his life. Nobody's looking for him.
Garrett gets to
And Pat Garrett gets the
put a
fame.
notch on his belt.
Yep.
Although Pat Garrett did not win re-election
Oh, there were some other things that came
for
up.
sheriff, and he tried to run for governor. He didn't win that.
But I mean, in the end, ultimately it was a win-win. Why not?
He got his name etched in the annals of history.
Yep.
Mary said she thinks he survived as well. So
Yeah.
Oh, one more little tidbit.
Oh my God, Wikipedia! Gosh.
One more little tidbit of information about Pat Garrett himself. He went on to piss off somebody and he went on to make somebody else very, very angry. And this time, the tables were turned. This man got the drop on Pat Garrett. Pat Garrett died of a gunshot wound. So just so you know, he kind of did get what was coming to him, in my opinion. But
I have to say hi to Priscilla. Priscilla. And I have to say thank you for the lovely snacks you sent me from the Netherlands.
What the what?
Yeah. So I'm going to show you one. And,
Why do you get all the good stuff?
Because I'm a midget.
I'm the second shortest.
Priscilla, did you send Scotty a lollipop?
As soon as Scott gets back here.
Whoa.
Those are like
These things, they taste like raspberry zingers.
Ooh.
Anybody want to take a guess what the pink icing is made with?
It's you, Scott. I don't want to guess.
You're right, you probably don't.
Ice cream?
So I tried these tonight, and then my favorite little friend from the Netherlands texts me and says, I guess I shouldn't tell you what those are made with. I'm like, okay, I'm going to look it up. And so I look up this recipe for them on Google. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's nothing bad. She's like, these are made with lice.
Lice?
Mm-hmm.
Like lice?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I'm good. No, don't
But
send me
you know
no.
what? It's like a raspberry zinger. These things are awesome.
I don't care what they taste like. I'm good. No.
Oh, Holly, I really did not want to read that.
Yeah.
So,
At any rate, Scott, we're moving on to the next topic.
Yes, please. So the next one, this is the one we were saving for Scott.
Yes.
Yes.
Jenna's having a sleepover tomorrow, and I'm going to let all the girls try them.
And then wait and then tell them afterwards.
Oh,
basically.
Can we
Yeah,
TikTok that? Can we TikTok the reveal?
I can do that.
Okay.
You need to.
I'll be looking for it tomorrow.
Okay, Scott, we're moving on because we're running out of time here.
Yes, we are.
Afghanistan giant.
Dude, this one is amazing. I love this one. I've seen it on TikTok. Imagine you're in Afghanistan and you're in special ops and you're sent on a mission to go find some missing soldiers, and you're in the province of Kandahar. And as you're getting to this cave, out walks a 18-foot giant. And all of a sudden, the only thing you can do is attack this thing. And yes, this is coming from special ops, soldiers, forces who have seen this thing and engaged in combat with it. And it is amazing, the story on this. I mean, I'm flabbergasted at it.
6 fingers, 6 toes.
Yep.
Long red beard, long red hair. Smelled horribly.
Like Tim.
Well, you know.
I am deeply wounded.
So it looked like Jeremy and smelled like Tim.
I am
Are you alive right now?
deeply, deeply wounded, Scott. I'm not pretty. I go out of my way to smell good.
Yeah. So, Tim and anybody, Holly, you guys being military, can you imagine being out on a mission and coming across something this big, and you're opening up with your M4s, and
They ended up using M417, 308 sniper rifles, and Barrett 50 cals to the head before they could even bring it down.
A Barrett 50 cal, dude. That is crazy.
Yeah. That's cool.
I don't think it was a 308 sniper rifle, was it?
Yes, I went back and you were sleeping.
But I mean, when you think about the theories on this society, we got tall people. I mean, so what do you think? An 18-foot giant. I mean, we're going back to something that I missed earlier, which was Bigfoot, Sasquatch.
Well,
something that's been hidden. You're talking mountainous area.
Well, giants go back to biblical days. So
Even before.
so it's not like giants are out of the realm of possibility.
Right.
Because it's believed that angels came down, mated with giants, and that's how we have the human race.
No, angels came down and mated with humans, and that's how giants
Okay,
were.
No, that's how our human race became so prosperous. You can watch the TikTok again later. Like he's doing any of this.
Giants are talked about in the Bible. And what region of the world was the Bible come from?
Middle East.
David and Goliath.
Right. Yeah, because these special ops forces were sent out to find a unit that had gone down.
Right.
That's why they were out there. And they'd only gone like 4 miles into the mountains when they started seeing broken military gear.
Now, wasn't it also said that the Kandahar giant also killed a couple of their soldiers as well?
One of them, he speared him.
I suppose his name is Daniel.
Yeah, he speared him with his big giant spear, and he came charging at the other troops with the hunger and a hate in his eyes, and he took the dude that was speared and just flung him like we would a baseball or a rag doll, like it was nothing, like yeah, and threw him. And they seen at the front of the cave where this thing came out of, multiple bodies piled up. So they figured that he had to have been a cannibal.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. I mean, it's just crazy.
And of course, like any good conspiracy theory, what happens?
Follow the money.
No, not follow the money on this one. This one's actually one that the world's not ready for.
Shut your mouth. Everybody who's seen it got back to base.
Hush order.
Sign a hush order. You want to know where the body's supposedly sitting at right now?
Where?
Ohio.
That doesn't surprise me.
Next state over.
The body was
So are you suggesting a road trip?
I mean,
don't think we get close.
Start terrorizing Ohio tomorrow.
If you want to go over into Ohio and storm a military base, Jeremy, be my guest. I'll stay out of that one.
Yeah.
I don't.
I'll have you back way back.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little guy, so I know what's going to happen to me.
Would they even see you though?
Yes, Mary, they ended up killing it. They ended up going back to radioing it into base. Base sent a helicopter. It was 1,200 pounds. And they ended up airvacuing it out. And once the
helicopter airbacked it out, and then they loaded it directly onto a C-130 bound for the States.
Yeah. And then didn't happen.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, that was a good one. I'm glad I come across that one on TikTok.
But it's an excellent.
That guy's cool. You need to follow him.
What you missed, Scott, was I said behind every good conspiracy, there's one of two reasons. Either one, you follow the money, or two, the world isn't ready for it. And this is a great example of the world is not ready for the truth.
When you look at people of decent size, you look at people like, NBA players, you know what I'm saying? I work with a guy who's 6'11", and to me, that's a guy who would be an NBA star. But when you think of somebody who might be 18 foot tall, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, Scott. We grew up with Joe Tackett.
Dane Martin is almost 7 foot tall.
Yeah.
And I work with him. I stand next to him. You think it's funny to be you and me together? You should see me and Dane. Yeah, it's bad.
I bet.
Jim, do you remember Jimmy North?
Yes.
I
like
think
6'9",
over 7 feet tall, isn't he?
I have no idea how tall he is. He towers over me. That's all I know.
Yeah. So Jimmy North is the guy that I don't know if he still works there anymore.
He works over on the frozen warehouse side.
Yeah, but I used to
But
see
I don't
him
know.
every
After
so
everything that
often.
went
I
down
haven't
over
seen
there, I
him
don't
in a very long time.
Yeah. He used
Hold
to
on.
work over the frozen warehouse side.
Yes, Mary. They did kill it. It took several rounds to the head. As of right now, I've not heard anything else on whether there are others like it, but I definitely am interested in trying to find out.
The Bible speaks of giants, not just David and Goliath. There are reports of giants in America. There was a man here in America that was digging in his field and hit something and dug up a man who was over 12 feet tall.
Stay with it.
Mary, if there's others like it, we don't know.
Yes, God just did.
Okay.
Hey, Holly, we're talking about the Kandahar giants.
In Afghanistan.
I don't know if you've heard it, but I'll send you the video. It's from TikTok. It's pretty crazy, dude.
That guy is really, really
It is.
cool. He has a lot of conspiracy theories on his TikTok.
He does.
The dog is right at my
Aside
feet.
I would like to
Yeah,
get that guy on this
He's
show.
my favorite.
Yeah, I'll see if I can message him. Usually the only way you can message them is if they follow you back. But I'll see if I can't message him. Maybe see if I can get him on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that he'd be a great guest to have on this show.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was thinking, too, when I started going through his TikTok page. Yeah, I'm a creepy stalker.
So, Kandahar giant, real or not real?
I'm undecided on that one. I do know that we have a lot of extremely tall people in the world, but I have never seen anything taller than, oh man, like 8 something. So just the idea of somebody that is 10 feet taller than that, I don't
How
know.
tall was the guy at Spies?
Robert Wadlow, he's 8'11".
How tall?
8'11". Robert Wadlow, he was supposedly the largest man to ever live in recorded history.
Oh, him. He was in his early 20s when he died.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Jeremy on this. As much as I love this story, being a veteran and special ops, man, I'm on the ropes, man. Like, I want to believe this, but man,
More needs to be known.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At
But-
that height, I'm having a hard time believing that one.
I'm going to go with the Mythbusters answer that it's plausible.
Anything's possible.
it is possible. It is very possible.
I mean, look at Bigfoot. Maybe he's a Bigfoot.
An Afghanistan Bigfoot who shed off his hair because it's too damn hot over there.
I would believe that. Although he does have that big beard, so
Tim, your mom's yelling at you to watch your language.
Yes, I know. Too darn hot over there.
Thank you. Okay, do you
Edit.
think
Rewind, edit.
okay, Crystal, what do you believe?
what do I believe? I think there needs to be more information.
Giant.
I don't think there needs to be more giants. I'm short. I'm not much
Okay.
taller than you, Scott.
My thing is it's one report from a remote area.
Right.
If
I
there were
think
more reports, then I would tend to lean more toward it. But now I want to dive into one that I do believe.
you think we got enough time? You
Yeah,
got
we got-
25 minutes.
We got a half hour.
You better speak, buddy.
Hey,
John,
hey, just before you
This
start,
would be our
I
last.
wasn't here for the Bigfoot. Just because I wasn't here for Bigfoot. We already had the discussion. I know you all probably said you believe. However, I am a skeptic because I'm going to make my point. 2 million people in Wisconsin that hunt, and not one of them people.
Who spoke for Scott? Who spoke for Scott?
Crystal did.
I said Scott is a skeptic. He doesn't believe, and that's fine. You don't have to believe everything. That's when we were talking about people being kind while we're doing this. This doesn't need to turn into a fight.
I know.
Anyways, that's my point.
You
Go
don't,
ahead,
you, don't
Tim.
have, you don't have to believe, even though you're wrong. Okay, now on that one, let's jump to the topic that followed that. Get his impression on it. Adolf Hitler. Scotty?
Ooh.
Do
Did he
you
die
believe
in the
that
bunker?
Adolf actually committed suicide? Or
I'm gonna say
he moved to Argentina?
I'm gonna say no. He did not commit suicide. Just on a simple fact that Russia was allowed to get there before us, and by the time American soldiers got there, they said they had already removed Adolf Hitler's body before we could even
Burned it
invent.
in a river.
Huh?
They burned it and threw it in a river. Is their official report.
He's not even
Well,
technically buried.
right. But there was also at one time a conspiracy theory saying that if he had committed suicide, that his body was actually in the Kremlin.
Which would be a fair statement.
Right. But I am going to say, if he wasn't in Argentina, my guess would be Spain. So
you're saying he ran like a female
he
dog?
ran. Hey, they said the guy had 8.
We're trying to be good, folks.
like 8 doubles that could be him, and that was one of his doubles who committed suicide. So that's what I say.
I'm running out of time here.
Tim
Okay.
is so excited about
This
John
one-
Wilkes Booth. We've watched this one
This
so
one
many
is
times.
Yes.
this one is-
Let's talk about John Wilkes Booth. We probably have only enough time just for this one here because I know we're going to be talking a lot about this
Yeah.
guy.
Patton is coming later. We're going to do more of these guys, more of these conspiracy theories, because this is my forte.
Yeah.
John Wilkes Booth.
So that you guys know, we're actually going to be doing more than one show on conspiracy theories because there was just so many out there. It's impossible to cover even a fraction of them in a 2-hour period.
Since you guys are awesome watchers, we've already done a list. And
Yeah.
Crystal gets the next group.
Yep.
Look who's there.
Yep. Conspiracy theory. Are these made with life or not?
There you go. That's a good one.
Anyways, go Tim. Do your thing.
Okay, John Wilkes. Did he die in Garrett's barn, or did he live well past that time? That is the question.
On John Wilkes Booth.
On John Wilkes Booth. Here are the facts. John Wilkes Booth shot Abraham Lincoln in the Ford Theater, in the balcony of the Ford Theater. He leapt from the balcony to the stage, breaking his leg.
Yep.
He jumps up, shouts something in Latin, which I don't remember what it was, runs out of the building as fast as you can on a broken leg, jumps on a horse, and takes off running. He goes to a physician's house named Harold Mudd. Harold Mudd fixes his leg. He goes on, keeps traveling southward. The Union soldiers catch up to him at a farm called Garrett's Farm. I know, Pat Garrett, Garrett's Farm. He runs into the barn. They're trying, him and another co-conspirator, they're trying to coax him out. The co-conspirator surrenders. The barn catches fire. And one of the soldiers outside just happens to aim a shot through a wooden slat and hit him perfectly in the back of the neck and kill him. Here are some more facts. The body they pulled out of there was never positively identified by anyone as John Wilkes Booth. In fact, several of the people who they brought in to say, is this John Wilkes Booth, to identify the body, said, I don't remember him, including a physician that had just done a surgery on John Wilkes Booth a year prior. They said, I do not ever remember John Wilkes Booth having red hair, nor do I remember him having freckles. John Wilkes Booth was known to have light skin and very dark black hair. The man they pulled from the barn had auburn to strawberry blonde hair. Did you happen to write anything down on this one? Oh, because I forget the guy's name. Again. I'm down.
See, while you're talking this over, I'm actually looking everything up right now. The
George.
phrase that he shouted out was "Sic semper tyrannis," which is Latin for "thus always to tyrants."
Yes.
Which was attributed to Brutus as Caesar's assassination.
And there was another man involved who was a Union soldier, who was a POW, who was captured. 2 months later, no one has ever heard from him, or he's never seen or heard from again. The name George keeps popping into my head, something George. But I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it or not. At any rate, this other guy who looked a lot like John Wilkes Booth but had auburn hair was captured by the North, supposedly flipped as a spy, but he's never heard from in history again. There's nothing on him past Lincoln's assassination, 2 months prior to Lincoln's assassination. Not a signature, not a deathbed confession, nothing on this man. I believe this man was killed in place of John Wilkes Booth. And like I said, I can't remember his name. I know Jeremy's looking it up feverishly right now.
I am also looking for pictures, supposed pictures of John Wilkes Booth as an older man. I found a side-by-side comparison, but I'm trying to find more.
Well, there were two different men that claimed to be, at least two men that claimed to be John Wilkes Booth.
Isn't it said that he actually survived and made it to Oklahoma?
Yes.
Somewhere in there.
That is the John St. Paul story.
Yes, I remember.
There's another one that
Here it is.
There's another one that claims to be John Wilkes. He just drops the Booth. That went to India, but a lot of them don't really lend a lot of credence to that.
Okay, I have found two pictures. The first one I am going to show is a side-by-side of what is possibly the...
How you doing?
There it is. The picture that is the definitive picture of John Wilkes Booth, and a picture supposedly of him as an older man.
Yes, that is the John St. Paul. And that one lends the most credence.
Yeah. And the resemblance there between the two is very, very uncanny.
It is, but if you look at his hairline on how it is, like his left side, how high it is, but if you look at the other one, it's not quite as high. I'm just saying.
That is a good point.
But this man claimed to be John Wilkes Booth, and it's a funny story, actually. He goes off, he gets married in Tennessee, just a little bit north of Memphis.
Right.
After he's married, he tells his wife, look, I have to confess to you, my real name is John Wilkes Booth. His wife is not mad that he is the man who assassinated President Lincoln. His wife is mad because she married somebody under a false name.
I remember that one.
So she makes him go back to the courthouse and sign a new marriage certificate with his legal name, which is John Wilkes Booth, and he signs it John Wilkes Booth. And the reason that the credence is lended here is because the signatures are very much the same. Handwriting analysis has said the same person writing.
Okay.
Here's the rub, though. Yes, that's the original tintype of that picture that you showed. It was badly damaged.
Yes.
And what the picture that you actually showed was a painting done to recreate the actual picture. But pull that picture back up one more time, Jeremy, if you can. I wanted to show Scott something because I noticed this earlier too, Scott. I noticed the hairline difference on the left side.
Right, and I kind of was looking at it on that picture, and it's pretty close.
Yes.
On the picture.
On the actual tintype, you can see the hairline on that left side is pushed up.
Absolutely. How the way it's got that curve, like the calic right there in the front, and how it swoops and comes back around. Yeah, that's pretty detailed, man. Dang, I sounded smart on that.
That is the man that I believe is John Wilkes Booth.
I agree.
And I do think that his story does lend more credence because of the signature. Not necessarily because of the tintype of the picture, but the signature is what got me.
Yeah, because
here's the rub
how you write is it's 1 in a million.
Here's the real rub of it all. Booth went to be buried. The man that they killed in the barn was buried on Booth family property. And the Booth family even wanted the body exhumed in 1990 to test to see if it was John Wilkes Booth, because Edwin Booth, his brother, who was an actor as well, his body is not buried in that same cemetery. The cemetery, along with several historians, throw a fit about this. Because the family and another historian want to exhume the body, and he actually had the Smithsonian was willing to do the test. The Smithsonian Institute. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, after they get all these yeses, you can exhume the body, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, nope, you can't do it. Sorry. By a federal judge.
So it's like they know.
Was it his that I was talking about earlier?
Yes.
I thought so.
Now, there are 3 pieces of bone, 3 vertebrae from the neck that are kept in the National Archive.
Done.
Yeah, this is where Crystal jumped the gun earlier. There are 3 vertebrae that are kept in the National Archive from the man shot in Garrett's barn. They petitioned to be DNA tested.
And it's very, very little fragments.
No, they only need 0.2 grams of bone.
Like tiny, tiny.
And they said, no, you might destroy the bone, so we're not going to allow you to do it.
Yep.
And because here's the thing, if they find DNA evidence from those bones and they match Edwin Booth, story's over. No conspiracy. But if they pull that DNA and it doesn't match, that's not John Wilkes Booth.
History has to be
rewritten.
And that's the third. That's the trifecta. Follow the money.
And I will say this:
the world's not ready for it. And rewriting history. That's your 3 conspiracy. That's the trifecta.
Because I will say this: any historian out there who claims to be a true historian, who tries to block the pursuance of the truth, in my opinion, they should have no credibility.
Right. And when you think about it, I mean, and you're right. I mean, it has, in a sense, to be covered up. Because if it wasn't, in fact, John Wilkes Booth, all the angry people that were mad when Lincoln got assassinated, you know how mad those people would have been had they say, well, we killed the wrong guy and we don't know where he's at.
But yeah, Scott, this is 100 years later.
But you got to think, too.
This is 140 years later.
You got to think, too, we got the guy. He's not on the lam. I mean, even in today's society,
60 years later.
you're on Facebook and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a crazy madman running, killing people in my city. And then 20 minutes later, you see, oh, the police got him. So what happens? Everybody's like, okay, cool. They caught him. We don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Because the truth of the matter is, and here's the motive for the cover-up. The truth of the matter is, this could have restarted the war.
Right.
Yes, it could have.
This could have rekindled the South and restarted the war. And if we bury it, if we cover it up, and everybody goes, okay, yeah, we get it. It's over. Then there's no more war. If we say, oh, crap, we shot the wrong guy, let's go get him, and we're tracking him everywhere, and we're trying to find him, and he makes it back to the South.
It starts a lynch mob. Let's be honest.
You gotta remember, at this time, this is only 3 days after, was it 3 days, 2 days, 2 or 3 days?
3 days.
2 or 3 days after Lee surrenders to Grant in Virginia. So this is
the official date of the Civil War was April 12th, 1861 to May 9th, 1865.
Right.
And Lincoln was assassinated on May 11th or 12th, 1865.
I don't know because I can
just
remember
remember May.
names.
He was killed April 15th, 1865.
It was a few more days than I thought.
Yeah.
But Lee surrenders to Grant. Chapo, long Indian name. Yes.
What?
Hey, guess what? That's also where the Civil War started.
But Lee surrenders to Grant. I don't even think that's right. I think it's Chap something. Chappaquiddick, something like that. Anyway, Lee surrenders to Grant. Lincoln is assassinated a few days later, and you know, if he makes it back to the South and is claimed a hero in the South, all of a sudden all these people that were sympathizers are all going to come running out of the woodworks again, and a whole new war starts all over again.
Which brings us to modern day times. Trump supporters and Biden supporters.
No, we're not going to do that.
But in a sense, it's history semi-repeating itself.
Pretty much.
Which is why it's important to learn history.
Exactly. Like I said, the interesting fact about the Civil War is it started on a plantation and it ended at the same plantation.
Yep.
That's pretty epic, man.
I will say this.
I'm sure you will.
While I do not agree with the South's cause, I was not for the South at all. In fact, my great-great-grandfather fought in the Civil War for the Union in the Kentucky 1st Cavalry. He was mounted horse.
That explains a lot.
But he did fight for the Union. He fought for the freedom of the African American people. But what Lee did after the war totally changes what he pushed for during the war. He started the first school. He started the first school for black children. He also dedicated all of his land upon his death as a burial site for fallen soldiers from the war. Scott, Holly, myself, we know this place is Arlington National Cemetery. That is General Lee's land.
Fact. Yep.
Yes, it is. So, in modern history, do I agree with his statues being ripped down? Yes and no. He did do a lot for this country afterwards.
I don't agree with it because it's history. History should not be erased. When you erase history, and I'm not, Lord knows, history was not my strongest subject in school. It wasn't. I could care less. Those people are dead. They don't matter to me. I hate to say it that way, but that's how I was. I'm a mathematician. I love numbers, and I did English. Those were my two fortes. But as I've grown up, I've learned you cannot erase history because once you do, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yes.
If we took Hitler and erased Hitler, because we've talked about this tonight, if you take Hitler and erase him from the history books like he never, ever, ever, ever happened, what happened in 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years? When somebody else says, I think I remember something about a concentration camp that my great-great-grandfather told me, and they do the same thing, and they go for world domination off of that one principle. We've learned it. We know the bad that comes from it. But because we've erased it from our children and they don't know it, or the next generation, what happens? Because somebody's always going to remember it.
Yep.
No.
It has to be taught. It has to be. Whether it's good or bad, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I know the difference between, and I'm sure, Scott, I don't know what classes you had to take when you were getting your degrees, but I had to take a history class in college.
Yep.
And my history class in college compared to my history class in high school, junior high, and elementary school was completely different.
Absolutely.
It showed, yes, there are people who write history along with the conspiracy theories. This kind of follows the same suit. There are people who write history. Then there's the truth of history. And when I got to college was when I finally seen the other side.
Where did Scott go?
I don't know.
I don't know. Something.
Yeah, he probably got bad connection out there. But when you see both sides, was slavery a bad thing? Yes, I wholeheartedly agree.
There he is.
But
What happened, Scott?
I'm making
2 minutes.
a heartfelt speech right here.
My finger.
But when you look at history and you look at the facts, not all slave owners were horrible people. And a lot of slaves chose to stay with their slave owners because they had a good life.
And if you really look back into our history, several of our early presidents had slaves.
Very true.
George Washington was one of them. Thomas Jefferson was one of them.
Yep.
Here's the right before we have to get off.
I tried to hit the chat, but I hit the leave button. So, but before we go, I just want to say happy birthday to my wife. Her birthday is tomorrow, but we celebrated tonight. So
We all said happy birthday to April tonight too.
Yep, we all said happy birthday to her.
Yep. Happy birthday.
And she said, since you all have her address, you need to send her presents. That's it.
Which fudge? Did she like the peanut butter fudge?
No, she don't like fudge. I do.
Oh, I don't have any more of the nuts, so somebody ate all those.
She got some at home.
I'm not going to touch that comment because that's going to put me back.
We still have some of them that we got for Christmas. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So before we do sign off, John Wilkes Booth.
Alive.
Okay. Crystal?
Alive.
I'm
Alive.
thinking live too.
And before we sign off, I want to say one thing. History is history. History is written by the winner. Anybody in the military knows that. History is written by the winners. The truth, though, will out, as the old saying goes. Truth will out. Yep. And when it comes to the point of rewriting history, do we go ahead and do the truth, or do we leave what's written? In my opinion, the truth needs to be told.
I completely agree with that.
Repeat our own mistakes.
I agree too.
Can I say one more thing? Completely sign out.
Hurry.
This is one thing I found when I was going through my Hitler research today, and this is a quote from one of the guys who supposedly has done autopsies and whatnot on Hitler. And his quote is, "The desire to invent legends and fairy tales is greater than the love of the truth. Thus, we have conspiracies."
That was said by Hugh Trevor Roper.
And it makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to throw that in before, because
Right, we've got to hop off.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Thank you guys.
Stay tuned. Emily Men's House will be on with a couple of guests, and next week, don't forget.
Next.
Is Emily coming on? She
I
didn't
don't
have
know
power.
who's coming on next. I think Adrian's show that she's producing is coming on next.
Oh, is it? Because
I think so.
Last I knew Emily was coming on. So anyway, whoever's coming on tonight.
There's another show.
Next week, I would have said this at the beginning of the show. Kendall Welton and his wife Vera from the House in Between and Ghost Hunters will be with us next week. And we are really looking forward to that one.
Yes.
Yes. So until next week, if it's paranormal or beyond.
We got it covered.
That's right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.